Hello, I'm Nicholas Snow, and today what I'm going to be doing for you guys, I got a lot of questions about it, a lot of comments. What I'm going to be doing is showing you guys how to pick a sub and an amp combo that work really well together so you don't end up damaging your amp or blowing your sub. I know sometimes it can be a little confusing with all the numbers they give you, RMS power, peak power, what do you listen to? It can be very kind of confusing sometimes, so I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples to hopefully help you pick a good combo. So first, if we head over here, we can see the subwoofer I have pulled up here is actually the one I have. I have two of them in my car right now. You go ahead and check out some of those other videos and you can see how well it's doing and why I inverted my subs as well. So for this one, we're just kind of go through the title and explain some of the things and how they make a factor and what amplifier you get for your subs. So we can see that it's 2000 RMS and it's dual voice coil and a 3 ohm or a 3-inch voice coil. We're not really going to worry about the size of the voice coil. We're just going to be focusing on the power and the coil configuration, not cone. So first, with this RMS power, that means root mean squared. This RMS power is how much the sub can handle continuously without taking damage. So as we scroll down, we can see down here, they also have a peak watts. This is often referred to as max power or program power. This wattage right here, peak wattage, means absolutely nothing. It is a number that is generally made up for marketing terms to seem like, 4,000 watts, 6,000 watts, 10,000 watts. That is never a number you want to go by. The problem is if you go with that number, the peak number, you run the risk of blowing your subs very easily because they're not meant to handle that on a constant basis. Yes, they can handle it, for 1 or 2 seconds, very quick burps. Maybe if you're doing an SPL setup, you can try to do that for a couple seconds, but I would not recommend anything more than that or you will blow your subs. So we need to focus on that RMS power. That's how much it can handle constantly. The next thing we need to look at after we look at that RMS power is what ohm load the voice coil is on the actual subwoofer. So we can see this is a dual 2 ohm. This in combination with the watts RMS will determine what amplifier we get. So as an example, going with this Massive Audio Hippo 15, it has 2000 RMS. So that means how much power it can constantly handle. And it's a dual 2 ohm voice coil. I have this website, it's from SoundCube. I can link it in the description. It's a website and it shows you, depending on your coil configuration, so dual 2 ohm, 4 ohm, 1 ohm, how many speakers you're running, what ohm load you can wire to, because not every coil configuration can wire to 1 ohm or half ohm or 4 ohm. It's dependent on the coil configuration. So going back here, we can see that it's a dual 2 ohm. So we select dual 2 ohm. If we want to run 2 speakers, we can see that we can run those speakers either at a half ohm load or a 2 ohm load. As your ohm load increases, it won't run the amp as hard, but you won't see as much power. So the lower you wire your subs, the more power you will get out of your amplifier. You want to make sure if you're lowering your ohm load anything below 1 ohm, you want to make sure that your amplifier is actually stable for that, because a lot of Class D amplifiers that you run for subwoofers sometimes are not able to be ran under 1 ohm. And you can run them under 1 ohm, but it is highly not recommended because they're just not stable under that below that 1 ohm threshold. So you do run the risk of your amp going into protect, or your amp actually blowing a fuse, or just completely, burning the motherboard inside or the circuitry inside of that amplifier, and we don't want that. So let's say we wanted to run it at a half ohm. It actually gives us a description and a diagram of how to wire these dual 2 subwoofers to get a 5 ohm load. But you're probably asking yourself, well, okay, half ohm, 2 ohm, 1 ohm, that doesn't tell me how much power. That's where this comes into play. So now that we have, we know it can run at 2000 RMS, and we can wire 2 of them down to half ohm, we can go to our amplifier. This is the amplifier that I have. I'm just kind of using the examples of the setup I have in my vehicle. We can scroll down here and see that it gives different ohm ratings, and per each ohm rating, it gives us how much wattage you will get out of the amplifier. So we can see that at 0.5 ohms, we will get 5,700 watts out of this amplifier, barring obviously that we have some of these other things, upgraded alternator, upgraded AGM batteries, making sure we have 0 gauge OFC, things like that. And we're running at this voltage. But we can see that at half ohm, as we see right here with that half ohm load, we will get 5,700 watts, which is more than enough for the 2000 RMS that these can handle. Obviously 2 of them together in this example, we did 2 speakers at half ohm, that would be 4,000 watts, and it's going to put out 5,700 watts. So it's definitely going to be enough. But what I like to think about in my head is I'd rather have a little more power and dial back the gain rather than turning up the gain to add distortion, because that again is not good for our subwoofers to get distortion. So if we have a little bit more power, we can just dial back the gain a little bit and rein it in right to that perfect RMS level. What you generally want to do is run within no more than 125% of the RMS rating, because sometimes obviously those RMS ratings are a little bit conservative because they know people are going to go crazy and try to go over that. So no more than about 125% of what the RMS rating is. So we can see that obviously running this these 2 massive audios, 2 of them at half ohm, we're gonna have a little extra power to spare, but that's okay because we can always dial back the gain. But these 2, running 2 of these and running a bass clef 4K from Crescendo would be a perfect match, because we can see that there is enough power going to the subwoofers. Now, as example, we go to a different one, same massive audio sub, but it's an 8-inch, and we can see that it's a dual 4 ohm voice coil. So we go back to our nifty wiring guide and we can see dual 4 running 2 speakers again. We either get a 1 ohm or a 4 ohm load. We don't have the same half ohm or 2 ohm options. So it does matter what your coil configuration is and how many speakers you are going to run. So again, if we run 2 of them and we want to go with the lowest impedance to get the most power out of our amplifier, we're going to go with that 1 ohm. And if we go back to this bass clef amp, we can see that that's 4,400 watts. So you are getting less power when running them at 1 ohm. But even with this example, 2 of these 8s would be way overpowered for that because they're only 900 RMS. So that would be 1,800. 2 of them running would be 1,800 RMS. But this amplifier puts out 4,400 watts at 1 ohm. So in this case, in theory, you can still run it at that 1 ohm with this amplifier, but you would need to definitely dial back the gain, or you are going to run into the issue of actually blowing the subs when constantly playing them. So, like we said, the main things are looking at, this RMS, not the peak watts. It's that RMS, what our voice coils are, plugging them into our wiring guide from SoundCube, seeing what ohm loads we can run, and using that ohm load impedance, looking at amplifiers and seeing what they do at those ohm loads, what wattage they put out at those ohm loads. And if the combined RMS of the subs you're running equals out or is within, 10 to 15% of this wattage output, then those are a good pair. An example of this sub not being a good pair would be running 2 of these would be 4,000 RMS, and wiring it at half ohm. As we go back here and show dual 2 speakers, half ohm, we can run it at half ohm. Running on a bass clef 6K at half ohm, it's seeing 8,200 watts. That would not be good. That would be way too much power, and potentially running into a problem of getting the stinky coils, blowing our subs, and it's not going to be a good day when we have to get in there and take them all out and replace them. But hopefully that was helpful, and it kind of explained how I got my setup and how I determined what subs would be the best for my setup and the amp that I had. If you have any more questions, just let me know. I can explain anything further, whether it's door speakers, subwoofer, anything car audio related. Just shoot me a message, leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure to respond to you, and maybe even make a video if enough people are asking about it, because a lot of it can be confusing, but it helps to have somebody on your side kind of explaining it to you. And I love to see your guys' build, so let me know what you guys are doing, and I'll continually update you guys on my build and what I'm doing. But hopefully this was helpful, and have a nice day.